Uh, Thank you so much, Your Eminencies and dear young leaders. Someone yesterday spoke about language being one of the biggest barriers to development. So I think I'll take this moment just for a second to teach in my native language, Xitsonga. When you greet, you say, Ausheni, and then the other person responds and says, Ahe. So we're going to try it now. Ausheni. Thank you so much. Yes. I think it is an immense honor to give this address here at the Vatican Youth Symposium. And one of the biggest reflections for me is that this particular year is also the year of Jubilee, as they did speak about it. And this gathering of more than 38 countries, to explore how entrepreneurship and other avenues as well as innovation can drive sustainable change. As introduced, my name is Risuna Maluleke. I'm the Group CEO of the African Entrepreneurship Development Corporation, and by extension, the Young African Entrepreneurs Institute. I think before I begin, it will be remiss of me to miss an opportunity to recognize Prof. Jeff Raquel and the entire team, for their visionary leadership in the global development space. And the reason I'm saying this is because such platform becomes an inspiration to many young people, who are gathered here. And your tireless efforts in promoting sustainable development and innovation then continue to shape the world that we want to live in so many ways, meaningfully in that regard. Colleagues, I think as I'm about to make my contribution, in the role of the power of entrepreneurship and innovation in shaping the future of sustainable development, it is important that at the beginning, I unpack at least, from a definition perspective, and I think our colleagues in the morning did quite so much justice, in terms of defining and the activities that then are around that. At their core, entrepreneurship is a process of identifying problems, or gaps or opportunities. And the reason I want us to define some of these concepts, I think it was also important that someone raised it yesterday, that one of the issues in undertaking some of, the developmental avenues is because things are not commonly defined, where we establish how do we define things in order for us then to answer certain questions to it. And when we speak about the identification of problems, it means that entrepreneurship does not start at the solution, it starts at the problem itself, and it's a question of how do we identify all these problems. And two, when we identify problems in this particular process, it must be within a specific context. So we all come from different countries, we all come from different cities in different countries, from different towns, others from villages and so on. And when we identify problems within context, it helps us then to bring together relevant resources, that are relevant for that particular problem that we're about to resolve. But also finally, in terms of defining what entrepreneurship is, as we get to identify some of these problems within specific contexts and bring together resources, we then ought to create value in respect of whatever the affected parties that we're dealing with. Often at times, people speak about coming up with solutions, making money and so on. But I think at the crux of things, what we need to start thinking about as far as entrepreneurship is concerned is to start thinking about it from the perspective of what value are we creating for the different communities that we come from. And on the other hand, when we speak about innovation, then we now need to start thinking about how do we turn those solutions that we come up with into impactful and scalable actions. And I believe that together these forces create then the potential to transform not just industries, but the entire society. And as young people, we have an important role to play in that particular transformation. And I think also what is important to note is that everyone seated here is not supposed to be simply just a beneficiary of development, but it is quite important that you must play an active role as architects in this particular development for a sustainable society that you want to live in. And I think through entrepreneurship, we have that ability then to solve the problems that previous generations were unable to solve. And we're able to then bring new ideas to life and use innovation as a tool, for driving positive change. In just under an hour or an hour or so, during the design thinking session, I think what was interesting is that people came with exciting solutions, and as people came up with exciting solutions, it sparked a thought, into my mind in terms of, imagine with all the time that we have in our different communities, cities, and countries, if we were to spend time and think carefully about the different problems that affect us on a day-to-day basis, what kind of solutions would we be able to come up with to resolve for some of those? So I think such an activity and exercise then really brought it forth to us that we're not just sitting with people who are here to listen, but we are sitting with people who in actual fact have the ability to think, and come up with solutions that can be constructive, in society in that regard. And I think the future of sustainable development then depends on this group of people. It depends on us. That is the next generation of innovators who will then inherit, the challenges of today, but also hold key solutions for tomorrow in that particular regard. I think also for me, empowering the next generation of innovators means providing them with tools, resources and opportunities to succeed. Because it is one thing for us to actually speak about the need for young people to rise to the occasion in terms of coming with entrepreneurial ventures, to innovate and so on. But then it becomes another, whether we are creating an enabling environment for them to be able to come up with those kinds of solutions and solve for those kinds of problems. So I think it is about us providing that, kind of an aid in terms of the resources as well as the platforms and opportunities for them to succeed. And I'll speak just briefly about the work that we do, that the Young African Entrepreneurs Institute is a testament, to the power of young people coming together, for a better society. It was founded by a group of, I think about 2-3 students, when they were still in varsity. And the model of the Young African Entrepreneurs Institute then focuses on accessibility, inclusivity, and also ensuring that young people from all backgrounds, especially for those who are coming from environments that face structural barriers, and then ensuring that everyone or each one of them have an opportunity to succeed. And I think that is done by providing mentorship, business incubation, and networking opportunities. As Yay, we are committed to fostering a new generation of entrepreneurs who are ready to tackle the most pressing challenges of our time, And I just want to make a highlight as well. In fact, 2 weeks ago, in partnership with one of the provincial governments back in South Africa, the Northwest Province, and one of the universities, Northwest University, we proudly opened what we call the Northwest Entrepreneurship Innovation Hub, an innovation hub, right? This hub is designed to foster entrepreneurship and innovation in that particular region, creating opportunities for young people to access the resources that they can use to turn their ideas into viable businesses. And that is what I'm talking about when I speak about it is one thing for us to say young people must rise to the occasion, but it is another for us to create enabling environments that actually propel them towards that kind of success, and participation. And, with government coming on board, it then becomes much more possible. And we're looking forward to, the kind of support and extending this. And this particular initiative for me is just like one of the steps, towards creating a more sustainable future, one that equips young people with knowledge, skills, and support to drive change in their different communities in that regard. And we look forward to scaling similar efforts, with other provincial governments in South Africa as well, the Eastern Cape, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and then looking at KZN, the Free State, Western Cape, Northern Cape, as well as Gauteng. And also, when we look at the avenue of government participating in some of these things, I think what is also quite more important is to note that corporates need to become active citizens, in society. So in South Africa, we then also have, corporates coming together as enablers and forces, for this particular change. And also just last week as well, we had a monumental, opportunity or moment, of collaboration between the Young African Entrepreneurs Institute and ABSA as well as Visa. ABSA is one of the biggest corporates and banks in South Africa. And then we also then had Visa, the payment solutions company, coming together with also other institutions such as Wholesale and Retail SETA, Small Enterprise, and Development and Finance Agency, the Central Energy Fund, National Development Agency, when we came together to launch what we call the Yay Times ABSA Youth Entrepreneurship Program. So this is also one of the initiatives that we're driving. And with such an initiative, we're looking at going across the country, supporting, young entrepreneurs, focusing on financial inclusion as well as youth innovation. And then also we have the Youth Entrepreneurship Skills Initiative, as well as looking at, celebrating the Global Entrepreneurship Month in November and so on. So these are just some of the initiatives that we get to do, and it's all about creating an enabling environment. And with since inception, we have supported or reached more than 10,000 young, people in South Africa at large, creating jobs as well as providing funding opportunities for those. But now looking forward, I think as I draw to a close, there are several industries or rather sectors that hold immense untapped potential, for young entrepreneurs to look into, such as agriculture. Globally, there's an issue of food security, particularly from an African perspective. And we need to start looking at solutions around that. There are issues around sustainable energy. We're looking at technology as just some of the few areas where innovation can have profound impact. And that is what young people need to start looking at, right? And we need to look at, for example, in agriculture, how do we use technology to increase productivity as well as improve food security, as I've said. And I believe that in some of these areas, young entrepreneurs are already making a stride, developing different solar-powered solutions, off-grid energy systems, and all that. And I think this is just not about energy access, but it's about creating sustainable business models that generate both social and economic returns. So I think young people must start thinking about entrepreneurship, not just from the perspective of making money, but about the society that we live in and how do we then make it sustainable. And I think as we reflect also on the importance of entrepreneurship, I want to take a moment and highlight something often overlooked: incredible strides that are being made in South Africa and Africa as a whole. And I think despite the challenges and contrary to the unfortunate remarks that we hear, there are great things happening in South Africa and Africa at large. And across Africa, I am confident, and I've seen that young people, and I'm happy that Yvette got to share a story as well, that young people are creating businesses, developing innovative solutions and leading change. And in South Africa, we are proud to be part of this growing movement of innovation, who are not just talking about change, but are making it happen. And I am one of them, being here today. And I think in conclusion, let me say, colleagues, the future of sustainable development is not a distant dream. It is something we are building today. And as young entrepreneurs, we are the ones who will shape this future. We are the ones who will push boundaries of what is possible. And we are the ones who will lead the world into a more sustainable, inclusive, prosperous future for all. If you remain committed, dear entrepreneurs and young people present here, I can assure you that you have a chance to turn your passions into ventures and to navigate the challenges that come your way. Remember, every great entrepreneur started with a simple idea and a bold vision. Your unique perspective and ambitions are the driving forces that will shape the future. Embrace the learning journey, collaborate with others, and never undermine the power of your ideas. Problems are everywhere, context varies. In order for us to come up with sustainable solutions, we must innovate in context. Together, we can make entrepreneurship and innovation forces for change, one story at a time. Nza Kenza, thank you very much, and I look forward to the engagement.